The Andari cluster sparkled under 1,000 stars, each one a witness to centuries of war and suffering. Once this galaxy had been a battlefield, where fleets clashed and civilizations crumbled under the weight of endless conflict. Planets were scarred with craters, skies darkened with fire, and oceans filled with the debris of destruction. But now for the first time in generations, there was peace. A fragile, beautiful peace that all the races of the cluster clung to, as if it were the last light in the universe. On the planet Olaris, a world of shimmering blue oceans and green forests, children ran through wide meadows, their laughter ringing, like tiny bells. Birds soared above, unafraid, and the wind carried the scent of blooming flowers across the valleys. Elder diplomats watched the scene from high towers of glass and silver, smiling at the innocence of youth, at the lives that had survived the horrors of war. In the grand halls of the Council of 12, leaders spoke of art, of science, of trade, and culture. Weapons and armies were words only used in history lessons, stories of a past that seemed distant and almost unreal. The galaxy celebrated itself. They believed they had learned the ultimate lesson, that war was a mistake, that peace could last forever. Statues of legendary diplomats adorned every capital city. Libraries filled with treaties and philosophies praised the end of violence. Everywhere there was music, poetry, and laughter. The galaxy shone with pride, convinced that the long nightmare of war had ended. Yet far beyond the bright worlds, hidden in the darkness of interstellar space, a silent observer watched. A lone Terran warship, sleek and humming with power, glided through the void. Its design was unfamiliar to the galaxy, yet elegant, efficient, and deadly in ways no one could predict. Humans, long considered a minor species, distant and unthreatening, had grown in secret. They had survived, adapted, and evolved in ways the galaxy could not imagine. For centuries they had remained in isolation, but now they were moving forward, toward the heart of the Andari cluster, toward the world that believed itself safe. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes scanning the stars with quiet intensity. She was young, but her presence carried a calm authority that made her crew trust her without question. Around her, trained officers prepared for a mission that was both delicate and dangerous. This was no conquest. This was a test, a warning, and a revelation all at once. Alara whispered to herself, her voice soft but resolute. The galaxy believes it is safe, that peace will last forever. It does not know what is coming. It does not understand itself, or us. Her crew moved with precision, checking engines, recalibrating shields, and reviewing mission plans. Each of them understood the stakes. Humans were powerful, yes, but power alone was not enough. They had to deliver a message that the galaxy would hear whether it liked it or not. The stars outside the viewport shimmered as the ship engaged its hyperdrive. The light stretched and bent, and for a moment the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. In a matter of moments, the Resolute would appear in the Andari cluster, in a galaxy that had forgotten the meaning of fear. And when it did, the delicate illusion of peace would tremble. On Olaris, life went on, blissfully unaware. Farmers tended their fields, markets bustled with trade, and children chased each other through flowering meadows. Leaders of the Council of 12 prepared for a routine, diplomatic session, discussing trade agreements and cultural exchanges. No one considered the possibility that something, or someone, entirely unexpected could change everything. In the Council's chambers, light reflected off polished surfaces, highlighting the serene faces of the galaxy's most respected leaders. They spoke of unity, of shared goals, and of prosperity. To them, the universe had learned its lesson. War was a memory, a shadow in the past. They did not notice the subtle ripple in the force of the galaxy, a disturbance that humans alone could. Captain Alara's thoughts were far from serenity. She thought of Earth, her home, a small blue world that had once been insignificant in the eyes of the galaxy. Humans had survived wars, plagues, and near extinction. They had fought against impossible odds and learned lessons the galaxy would never know unless they reminded it. The Resolute was more than a ship. It was a symbol, a warning, and a key to awaken a complacent galaxy. As the ship moved closer to Olaris, Ilara looked at the stars, each one representing a civilization that had believed it had mastered peace. "They do not know," she said, softly. "They do not understand. They think strength can be ignored, that vigilance is unnecessary. We will show them, gently, yet firmly." The bridge of the Resolute was quiet, but the tension was palpable. Every crew member understood the weight of the mission. This was not a war they were about to start, but a truth they were about to deliver. The galaxy had celebrated peace, but it had also forgotten the fragility of that peace. And humans, clever, unpredictable, relentless humans, were about to remind everyone. For a brief moment, Captain Ilara allowed herself a faint smile. The galaxy had believed in an illusion, a perfect, unbreakable peace. But illusions, no matter how beautiful, always shatter when reality touches them. And the humans of Earth were that reality. The Resolute surged forward, diving through the void with silent purpose. The Andari cluster glimmered below, unaware that its tranquility was about to be questioned. Somewhere deep in her heart, Ilara knew the galaxy would never be the same again. Peace, as they understood it, was about to face its greatest test. The Resolute slipped silently from hyperspace, emerging near the glittering world of Olaris. From orbit, the planet looked peaceful. Cities gleaming under twin suns, forests stretching for miles and oceans shimmering like liquid sapphire. The galaxy had never seen humans arrive like this, without ceremony, without fanfare, yet with a presence that could not be ignored. Inside the Grand Council Hall of Olaris, the leaders of the Andari cluster gathered for their routine session. The Council of 12 had met for centuries in this hall, debating trade, art, and policy. Today, however, their discussions froze when a quiet alarm sounded. The holomap flickered, revealing a lone Terran warship entering their system. Gasps echoed across the chamber. "A human warship?" whispered Ambassador Dreven of the Xylaris, his voice trembling. His silver-tinted scales reflected the chamber's light, and his eyes, wide with disbelief, betrayed his fear. "Impossible. They haven't traveled outside Earth's system in centuries. How can this be?" The council erupted in murmurs. Some whispered of curiosity, others of danger. Humans had always been underestimated, small, fragile, primitive, yet stubbornly resilient. No one had predicted they could reach this far, nor that they would come now unannounced to the heart of the cluster. Captain Ilara Vance stood on the bridge of the Resolute, calm and poised. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, checking communication, channels and scanning the planet below. "Prepare the universal translator," she instructed. "I will speak to them directly. This is not a war mission. This is a test, an awakening." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Each of them understood the weight of this moment. The humans had grown in ways the galaxy could not imagine, and they were about to challenge the illusion of peace. The council received a broadcast seconds later. A calm, firm voice echoed across the chamber, translated into all known languages. "I am Captain Ilara Vance of the Terran ship Resolute," the message began. "We come as witnesses, not conquerors. But your peace, it is built on assumptions. You have forgotten the strength necessary to maintain it." The hall fell silent. Leaders shifted uneasily in their seats. Some gripped their arms of office, some swallowed hard. Humans had never spoken to the council like this. Always distant, always dismissed, they now addressed the galaxy's most powerful leaders with authority and clarity. Ambassador Dreven rose from his seat, his voice shaky but demanding. "Captain Vance, what do you mean? We have peace because we chose it. We have abandoned war. Why do you threaten us?" Ilara's gaze was steady, almost gentle as she answered, "I do not threaten you. I remind you. Peace without understanding is fragile. You have grown proud. believing your treaties and your diplomacy are enough. But strength ignored will always return. Some council members leaned forward, trying to understand while others glared, uncomfortable with the subtle warning in her tone. The human's presence alone caused unease. The Resolute was not the largest ship in the galaxy, nor the most armed, but it radiated purpose, efficiency, and an aura of silent dominance. A young silver-eyed ambassador named Leora, no older than 12 by her species' reckoning, stepped forward. Her voice trembled as she asked, Are you here to fight us?" Ilara's expression softened slightly. "No, little one. We are here to remind you what can happen if you forget who you are, if you forget what vigilance and preparedness mean. The galaxy believes itself safe, but safety is an illusion unless earned and maintained." Outside, the planet seemed to hold its breath. Cities, unaware of the interstellar tension above, continued their daily rhythms. Children played in the fields, farmers tended crops, and traders moved through bustling markets. The galaxy below seemed untouched by fear, yet the leaders in the council hall knew something had shifted. The illusion of safety was beginning to fracture. Weeks passed as humans remained in orbit, observing without aggression. The galaxy's leaders attempted diplomacy, but the humans were patient and deliberate, answering questions without arrogance but with precision. Every word, every gesture carried weight. Every demonstration of human technology, shields absorbing energy that could destroy fleets, engines outpacing the fastest vessels, was a silent reminder. Humans were no longer weak, no longer irrelevant. During a private session, Ilara spoke directly to Ambassador Dreven. "Your fleets may be impressive," she said, voice calm but firm. "But if you believe strength can be ignored, you are mistaken. Complacency is a dangerous friend, and arrogance is a cruel teacher. I am not here to destroy you, but to wake you from a dream that has lulled your galaxy into false comfort." Dreven swallowed, unease rippling through him. He had spent his life believing the galaxy had learned from war, believing treaties and diplomacy were enough. But now, a single human ship, calm and unyielding, challenged every assumption he had ever made. Meanwhile, Leora watched the humans with wide eyes. "They are so calm," she whispered to her tutor. "And yet, I feel as if they carry the weight of the whole universe in their presence." Her tutor nodded. "You are wise to feel that, little one. Humans are not just another species. They are different. You will see soon what that truly means." As days turned into nights, whispers of fear and awe spread throughout the galaxy. The Andari cluster, once confident in its eternal peace, now faced doubt. Leaders realized that treaties and history alone could not protect them from what was possible. A single Terran warship had arrived, and the galaxy began to awaken to the truth. Peace was not guaranteed, and the humans of Earth were forces beyond prediction. Captain Ilara gazed at Olaris from orbit. "We have arrived," she said quietly. "Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to remind them, to show them that the galaxy must not forget its lessons. Peace is beautiful, yes, but it is fragile, and it can vanish in a heartbeat if ignored." The stars twinkled around the ship, silent witnesses to the coming storm of realization. The galaxy believed it was safe. It believed that centuries of treaties had made it invincible, yet the humans had arrived to teach a simple, unyielding truth. Strength cannot be ignored, and peace is not eternal. And in that quiet orbit above Olaris, the first cracks in the illusion of peace began to appear. The galaxy had never felt so tense. Weeks had passed since the Resolute arrived in the Andari cluster, and yet the humans had not fired a single shot. Their presence alone, calm and unwavering, had unsettled the Council of 12. Leaders who once held absolute confidence now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about power, peace, and the universe. Captain Ilara Vance walked through the corridors of the Resolute, observing her crew as they moved, silently, each action precise, each gesture deliberate. This mission was not about conquest, but about awakening. Humans had survived countless trials on Earth, plagues, wars, environmental collapse, and each experience had forged resilience, cunning, and unity. Ilara knew that the galaxy, basking in its fragile peace, had forgotten the meaning of struggle. That was why they had come, to remind them. The Council of 12 had summoned a formal meeting to discuss the humans. Ambassadors crowded into the massive hall, voices low but urgent. They debated, argued, and speculated, but the truth was impossible to ignore. The humans were unlike any species they had encountered. They were small, yes, physically weaker than many races, yet their presence carried authority and an unshakable confidence. Even their technology seemed alive, responsive, precise, and terrifyingly efficient. Ambassador Dreven spoke first, his voice trembling despite his usual composure. They do not attack, yet they demonstrate power with every gesture, every word. How can this be? How can a single ship challenge centuries of diplomacy? Ambassador Phelan of the Thrin species, whose scales glimmered with green and gold, leaned forward. It is not just the ship, she said. It is the humans themselves. There is something in their eyes, their tone, their very posture. They do not bargain. They observe. And somehow that is enough to make us doubt ourselves. In orbit, the Resolute maintained position, scanning and listening, yet never acting aggressively. Captain Ilara spoke directly to the Council via a secure channel, her voice steady and calm. You believe that peace has made you invincible, she said. You believe that treaties, words, and councils are enough to protect your worlds. I am here to tell you, they are not. Complacency is dangerous. Arrogance is deadly. The galaxy has forgotten the lessons of survival. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some felt anger at the perceived insult. Others felt fear, a cold, deep fear that rooted itself in the core of their beings. For the first time in generations, the leaders realized that power ignored does not disappear. It grows unseen until it can no longer be contained. A young ambassador, Leora, spoke up. Her silver eyes shone with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Captain Vance, what is it that you want from us? Why are you here if not to attack? Ilara's gaze softened, yet it remained unwavering. I want you to remember yourselves, she said. To remember what vigilance, strength, and unity mean. To understand that peace is not a gift. It is earned every day. Your galaxy has grown complacent, believing that treaties and history alone can protect you. That is a dangerous mistake. Even as she spoke, subtle demonstrations of human capability continued. A small patrol drone emerged from the Resolute, moving faster than any fleet vessel. It danced around Zalara's ships in the vicinity, evading sensors and targeting systems with precision that made seasoned admirals shiver. No shots were fired, no missiles launched, yet the message was clear. Humans had evolved beyond the galaxy's understanding. Some council members argued for aggression, believing that humans had to be tested by force. But every attempt to confront the Resolute failed. Fleets moved into position only to find that human defenses neutralized any threat before a single strike could occur. Ambassadors realized with growing dread that humans had prepared for every scenario. It was not just skill, it was foresight, patience, and a willingness to act decisively when needed. Ambassador Dreven met privately with Captain Ilara via holographic communication. His voice trembled. You have shown us that we are vulnerable, that our peace is fragile. What do you want from us? Ilara's expression was calm, almost gentle. I want you to learn, she replied. I want you to wake up. You have created a world where complacency thrives, where power is ignored, and where history is forgotten. I am here to remind you that survival requires more than treaties. It requires strength, vigilance, and wisdom. You cannot afford to ignore it any longer. Draven bowed his head, unable to argue. For centuries he had believed the galaxy had conquered war, yet here he faced undeniable proof. A single human ship, unmoving yet commanding, had shattered every assumption he had ever held. Meanwhile, Young Leora watched from the council gallery. "They do not seem cruel," she whispered to her tutor, "but I feel afraid and curious at the same time." Her tutor nodded gravely. "That is the feeling humans create. They do not threaten blindly. They do not boast. They simply exist. And in doing so, they force you to confront truth. You will learn from them whether you want to or not." Days passed. The humans remained in orbit, patient and deliberate. They spoke little, listened more, and demonstrated their power subtly but unambiguously. The galaxy learned that intimidation need not come with violence. It could come with presence, calm, and mastery of skill. Captain Alara walked on the bridge, watching the planets below. She knew the galaxy would soon face a choice: awaken to reality or continue clinging to illusions. She whispered quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "Peace is beautiful, but fragile, and some lessons must be learned the hard way." For the first time in centuries, the leaders of the Andari cluster felt uncertainty, a deep and unsettling uncertainty. They had welcomed humans as a curiosity, yet they now realized that this species, small and underestimated, had become a force that could no longer be ignored. The galaxy had believed in its invincible peace. Humans had arrived to show them that it was an illusion, and that every illusion has a price when reality comes knocking. And above it all, the Resolute floated silently in orbit, calm, prepared, and unyielding. The humans had not fired a single shot. Yet with patience, precision, and presence, they had already begun to change the galaxy forever. The Andari cluster had never known a moment like this. Weeks of uneasy diplomacy had passed, and yet the Resolute remained in orbit, calm and silent. The galaxy had grown accustomed to its presence, but peace was fragile, and cracks had begun to appear. The illusion that war was behind them was about to shatter. On the distant planet of Jarkath, turmoil brewed. A group of rogue factions had seized control of the government, ignoring the Council's treaties and demanding total independence. They armed themselves with stolen technology, threatening to spread chaos across neighboring systems. The Council of 12 hesitated, unsure how to respond. Years of diplomacy had dulled their instincts for action. They sent messages, negotiations, and ultimatums, but the rebels ignored them all. Captain Ilara Vance watched the reports from her bridge, her expression calm but intense. "The galaxy is slow to learn," she murmured. Her crew, trained to anticipate her thoughts, prepared quietly. The Resolute would act, not to destroy, but to teach a lesson in vigilance, courage, and responsibility. Ambassador Dreven paced nervously in the council hall of Olaris. "They will never attack," he said, his voice shaking. "Humans do not fight without reason. But what if they decide the galaxy is too fragile? What if this is a test?" Before anyone could answer, the council received word. The rebel fleets had mobilized. They threatened nearby colonies, their ships armed with stolen weapons and reckless in strategy. Panic spread through the chambers like wildfire. Leaders who had once prided themselves on careful planning now realized they had no plan that could match the humans' intervention. Without waiting for orders from the Council, the Resolute moved with decisive speed. Hyperspace engines flared, and the ship disappeared into the Jarkath system. Rebel commanders, confident in their numbers and firepower, were unprepared for the arrival of a single Terran warship. Sensors flickered as the Resolute's shields appeared impervious to their attacks. Their weapons, calibrated for fleets and planetary defenses, bounced harmlessly off human technology. The crew of the Resolute acted with precision. Small drones deployed from the ship, disabling weapons, intercepting communications, and immobilizing enemy vessels. Not a single human fired a weapon directly, yet the rebels found themselves trapped, powerless, and confused. Captain Ilara's strategy was clear: demonstrate control without unnecessary violence, proving a point the galaxy could not ignore. On the bridge of the Resolute, Ilara observed the chaos below with quiet satisfaction. "They are learning," she said softly. "Not through destruction, but through understanding that strength matters, that complacency is dangerous." Back on Olaris, The council watched the unfolding events via live feed. Ambassadors gasped as the rebel fleets fell into disarray. The Andari cluster, which had prided itself on peace, realized with horror that the humans had outmaneuvered forces 10 times their size. The illusion of control, the belief that treaties and diplomacy alone were enough, shattered in an instant. Leora, the young silver-eyed ambassador, stood silently, eyes wide. They didn't even fire a shot, she whispered. And yet, everything changed. Her tutor placed a hand on her shoulder. That is the power humans carry, not through fear but through clarity, precision and understanding. They teach lessons without raising weapons. That is why they are feared and respected across systems you have never known. As the Jarkath rebels surrendered, Captain Alara addressed the galaxy once more. Let this be a lesson, she said, her voice calm yet resolute. Peace is not the absence of challenge. It is not the absence of vigilance. Strength, understanding, and readiness must exist alongside diplomacy. If you forget this, the consequences will return to you, greater and more painful than you can imagine. The council hall was silent. For the first time in generations, leaders who had once spoken with certainty realized they were unprepared for the realities of the universe. History books had told stories of war and survival, but the galaxy had ignored the lessons. Humans had arrived not to conquer, but to remind everyone that survival required more than treaties, more than hope. Even Ambassador Dreven, hardened by years of negotiation and diplomacy, felt a chill run through him. He bowed his head, knowing that everything he had believed about safety and peace was now incomplete. We have been blind, he admitted quietly, and now we see the truth. On Olaris, children still played in the fields, oblivious to the lessons unfolding in orbit. But the elders, the diplomats, and the warriors felt it deep in their bones. The galaxy was no longer the same. The illusion of eternal peace had ended. A single human warship had arrived, and in doing so it had changed how every civilization would view itself, its power, and its responsibilities. Captain Ilara watched the rebels surrender. She felt no triumph, no satisfaction in victory. This was not about glory or conquest, it was about awakening. The galaxy needed to understand that peace without preparation is fragile, that overconfidence can be deadly, and that the lessons of survival are timeless. As the Resolute prepared to leave the Jarkath system, Alara addressed her crew quietly. We have done what is necessary, she said, not through violence but through presence. They will remember this day forever. The galaxy will never look at humans the same way again. And far below, in the council hall and across countless worlds, whispers spread. The humans had arrived, not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as a force that demanded respect, reflection, and understanding. Peace had been fragile, complacency had been dangerous, and the galaxy had finally learned a lesson it could not ignore. The stars seemed brighter that night, as if bearing witness to the new reality. The illusion of safety was gone. The galaxy had been reminded of the hard truth. Survival requires vigilance, and power ignored is power wasted. And above it all, the Resolute sailed silently through the void, calm, resolute, and unyielding. Reminder that humans had arrived and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy could no longer ignore the truth. The events on Jarkath had spread like wildfire, carried across star systems by messengers, communication networks, and the whispers of those who had witnessed the humans' decisive intervention. Leaders who once slept soundly in their belief of everlasting peace now sat in sleepless contemplation. Every civilization felt the weight of uncertainty pressing against the fragile walls of their confidence. Captain Alara Vance watched from orbit aboard the Resolute as reports poured in. From across the cluster, the humans had not destroyed the rebels. They had shown control, precision, and undeniable mastery. It was a demonstration, a reminder that power ignored is dangerous and that the illusion of peace can vanish in a heartbeat. She felt a quiet satisfaction, Not pride, not triumph, but calm awareness. But calm. This was the awakening she had come to deliver. Ambassador Draven stood in the council hall of Alaris, staring at the hollow feet of Jarkath. The rebels' surrender replayed again and again, showing how a single human ship had reshaped the outcome. He could barely speak. We were arrogant, he admitted, voice low. We thought treaties alone would protect us. We forgot vigilance, foresight, and courage. And now we understand. Across the galaxy, scientists, military leaders, and scholars debated what had happened. Some were afraid, fearing the humans' growing power. Others were inspired, realizing that survival required more than words. Strategists analyzed human tactics, marveling at the precision and efficiency of the Resolute's maneuvers. Ships and fleets, once considered the ultimate symbols of power, now seemed vulnerable before a species that could outthink, outplan, and outlast them. In the council hall, Leora, now older but still with the same wide silver eyes, rose to speak. We have believed peace meant safety, she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. We have celebrated treaties as if they were shields. But humans have shown us, peace is not a shield. It is a responsibility. Strength and vigilance must walk with it. Otherwise, it is fragile, like glass. Ambassador Phelan nodded gravely. She is right, she said. We have ignored what we should have remembered. The humans did not destroy the rebels. They taught us that we cannot ignore the lessons of survival. They have given us a gift, harsh as it may seem. Back aboard the Resolute, Ilara spoke to her crew. They are beginning to see, she said, voice calm, yet firm. They feel the fear. Yes, but more importantly, they feel the awakening. They will rebuild, rethink, and prepare. The galaxy will be stronger because of this. The crew nodded, understanding that their mission was not about glory or conquest. Humans had always survived by learning, adapting, and enduring. They had fought wars, plagues, and disasters, and each challenge had taught them lessons the galaxy had forgotten. Now they were sharing those lessons, not through domination but through presence, action, and restraint. As the days passed, systems across the Andari cluster began to change. Fleet commanders drilled harder, focusing on coordination and strategy. Scientists innovated faster, creating engines and weapons with new efficiency. Diplomats no longer relied solely on treaties. They began to study history, human tactics, and philosophy. Every corner of the galaxy felt the ripple effect. The lesson was clear. Vigilance was no longer optional. Even ordinary citizens began to notice the changes. Markets hummed with discussion, schools debated the human intervention, and children imagined heroes who were clever, brave, and disciplined. The humans' arrival had sparked curiosity, reflection, and humility across civilizations. Peace had been beautiful, yes, but now it would be tempered with awareness and readiness. In Olaris, Leora met privately with Ambassador Draven. Do you think humans will return? She asked. Draven shook his head slowly. I do not know, he admitted. But I do know this. They have changed everything. Our galaxy will never be the same. And perhaps that is exactly what we needed. Ilara, observing the galaxy from her ship, allowed herself a small, quiet smile. They will grow stronger, she said softly. They will learn from what we have shown them, and they will never forget that a single ship and a single species can awaken an entire galaxy. Peace is not weak. It is responsibility. Strength and wisdom must walk with it. Even as the Resolute prepared to leave orbit, whispers of humans spread across the Andari cluster. Stories of courage, calm, and unmatched skill circulated, inspiring a new generation of leaders and thinkers. The galaxy was no longer content to believe in its invulnerability. Humans had reminded them that power ignored is power lost, and that the lessons of survival are never optional. Captain Ilara looked toward the stars, thinking of Earth, the small blue planet that had produced a species capable of changing entire galaxies. We have given them knowledge, she said quietly. Not domination, not conquest, just understanding. That is enough. For now. And as the Resolute disappeared into the infinite darkness of space, a sense of new purpose swept across the cluster. Planets once complacent in their peace began to rebuild their defenses, rethink their strategies, and strengthen their fleets, not in fear of humans, but in respect of what the galaxy had learned. The illusion of safety was gone. Complacency would never return. The galaxy had awakened, and humans with calm determination and quiet mastery had been the spark that ignited the change. Peace, the galaxy now understood, was not a gift. It was a responsibility, and those who ignored it would face consequences far harsher than they had ever imagined. The Andari cluster was no longer the same. In the weeks since the Resolute's intervention on Jarkath, the galaxy had begun to change. Fleets trained harder, engineers innovated faster, and diplomats reconsidered the meaning of treaties. The humans had not imposed their will, nor had they demanded obedience. They had simply shown what vigilance, strategy, and resolve could achieve. And the galaxy was learning whether it liked it or not. Captain Alara Vance watched the stars from the bridge of the Resolute. She could see the subtle changes ripple across systems. Fleets performing maneuvers more efficiently, governments investing in coordination and intelligence, and even scholars revisiting ancient lessons of history and war. They are beginning to understand, she said softly, almost to herself. Not fear, not resentment. Understanding. That is the first step. Below, on Olaris, the Council of 12 convened again. Ambassador Draven, Leora, and others gathered in the great hall, their faces solemn but thoughtful. Gone was the arrogance that had once dominated their discussions. Now there was awareness, a cautious, determined recognition that the galaxy could not rely on peace alone. Leora rose to speak, her silver eyes shining with clarity. Humans have shown us that peace is fragile, she said. It is not enough to hope or to rely on treaties. Strength, vigilance, and readiness must always accompany it. We have been shown the value of preparation, foresight, and courage. The galaxy must learn to live with responsibility. The council listened quietly. Even the elders, who had long dismissed the humans as insignificant, felt the weight of her words. They could no longer ignore the lessons the Resolute had delivered. Across the cluster, other councils were having similar discussions, the whispers of humans' power transforming into serious debates about strategy, defense, and governance. Meanwhile, small patrol fleets under human guidance began cooperative exercises with local ships, demonstrating tactics and coordination that were new to the galaxy. No one was ordered to follow. Humans simply showed what was possible. Battles simulated in training fields revealed weaknesses in long-trusted methods and inspired new ways to think about defense and leadership. The galaxy was learning, quietly, patiently without the devastation of war. Captain Alara met with her senior officers in the conference room of the Resolute. They are listening, she said. They are learning that survival demands more than treaties and optimism, and they are beginning to realize that humans are not threats to peace. They are teachers of its meaning. Her first officer, Commander Rylan, nodded. It is remarkable, he said. The galaxy is adapting even without fear. They respect our presence and the lessons we convey. That is a victory in itself. Ilara smiled faintly. Yes, Rylan. A victory not of war but of understanding. They will remember this. Future generations will grow stronger because of what we have shown them. On Olaris, Ambassador Draven convened a special council session to address the lessons learned. We have lived in comfort for too long, he said. The humans have reminded us that survival requires readiness. We must not only protect our worlds but also strengthen our knowledge, our fleets, and our unity. Complacency has cost us nothing yet, but it could cost us everything in the future. The council agreed, and across the cluster, similar sentiments took hold. Fleets increased their patrols, Scientists shared discoveries more openly, and leaders encouraged citizens to study strategy, history, and the art of preparation. Peace, once seen as a guarantee, was now respected as a responsibility that demanded effort and care. Even ordinary citizens noticed changes. Children trained in schools with new exercises, learning lessons in teamwork, problem-solving, and strategy. Adults participated in community drills and simulations, understanding that survival required readiness and adaptability. The galaxy, once comfortable in its illusion of safety, had begun to embrace the truth humans had quietly demonstrated. Vigilance is strength, and strength must accompany peace. Leora, walking through the streets of Olaris, noticed how conversations had changed. People spoke not of complacent optimism, but of responsibility, planning, and cooperation. She smiled, understanding that humans had awakened a galaxy, not with fear, but with guidance, presence, and clarity. Above it all, the Resolute sailed silently through the void, calm and unyielding. Captain Alara watched the stars and reflected on the journey. "We have done what is necessary," she said softly. "Not to dominate, not to conquer, but to remind them that the universe does not reward complacency. The galaxy will be stronger, wiser, and more prepared because of this." Her crew moved with quiet precision, aware that the mission was far from over. Humans had shown what was possible, but the galaxy still needed time to internalize these lessons. Each day, each interaction, each demonstration built understanding, reshaped thinking, and strengthened civilizations in ways the galaxy had never imagined. And yet, even as peace seemed to grow more resilient, a quiet truth lingered among humans and observers alike. The galaxy would never again take its safety for granted. The arrival of a single Terran warship had proven that strength, clarity, and vigilance matter more than treaties, history, or hope. Humans had reminded the galaxy of a simple, immutable fact: survival is not guaranteed. It must be earned every day. Captain Alara looked toward the distant stars, knowing that their work was not over. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "We have opened their eyes. They will adapt, learn, and grow. And someday, they may become allies, or they may face challenges that demand everything we have shown them." The Resolute continued its quiet journey, a solitary presence among the stars carrying the truth of human resilience and wisdom. Across the Andari cluster, systems were changing, leaders were awakening, and citizens were beginning to understand that peace without preparation is an illusion. The galaxy had been awakened, and the lessons of the humans would echo across generations to come. And as the stars glittered around them, the humans sailed silently, calm and resolute, the keepers of a lesson no one in T-Der, he galaxy would ever forget. The Andari cluster had awakened. Across countless worlds, fleets trained with renewed purpose, governments revised policies, and citizens embraced responsibility like never before. Peace was no longer an illusion. It was a duty, a fragile, precious gift that required vigilance, wisdom, and unity. And at the center of this awakening, the Resolute drifted silently among the stars, calm, patient, and unyielding. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge, looking out at the galaxy she had quietly transformed. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, aware of the magnitude of their mission. "We came not to rule, not to destroy," she said softly, her voice carrying across the bridge. "We came to remind them of what is necessary, to show them that strength and vigilance are not threats to peace. They are its guardians." Below, on Olaris, Ambassador Draven addressed the Council of 12. His tone was steady, determined, and humble. "We have seen what complacency costs," he said. "We have learned from humans that survival requires more than hope, treaties, or history. It requires preparation, foresight, and courage. Let us honor that lesson and carry it forward in every decision we make." Leora, now a young leader, herself stepped forward. Her eyes shone with the same silver light that had once reflected awe and fear. The humans have shown us that even the smallest of ships or the smallest of actions can ignite change, she said. We have been reminded that vigilance is strength, that understanding is power, and that peace is not given. It is earned, every day. Let us build a galaxy worthy of the lesson we have been given. Across the cluster, other worlds mirrored Olaris's transformation. Scientists shared innovations, fleet commanders revised strategies, and citizens prepared themselves for challenges without panic or despair. The galaxy was not merely safer, it was wiser, stronger, and more united than it had been in centuries. In orbit above Olaris, the Resolute prepared to leave. Captain Ilara called her crew together in the observation deck, a quiet room bathed in starlight. "We have done what is necessary," she said. "We have not fought to destroy nor sought glory. We have acted as teachers, as reminders of what it means to survive. The galaxy now knows that strength and peace must walk together, and that they must never forget what has been shown to them." Her first officer, Commander Rylan, nodded. "They have changed," he said, "not through fear but through understanding. That is the greatest achievement we could hope for." Ilara smiled faintly. "Yes, Rylan, and it is only the beginning. One day the galaxy may face threats far greater than any we have encountered. When that time comes, they will be ready, because they now remember what it means to survive, to fight, and to protect peace." As the Resolute ignited its engines and slipped silently into hyperspace, the galaxy watched, awed and inspired. Humans had arrived quietly, without conquest, without war, and yet their presence had changed everything. The illusions of safety, invulnerability, and complacency had been shattered. What remained was a galaxy awakened, a galaxy aware, and a galaxy forever changed. On Olaris, Leora looked up at the night sky, her heart full of hope and understanding. "They showed us what we could be," she whispered. "Not rulers, not conquerors, but guardians. We must never forget this lesson, and we must never forget them." Ambassador Draven stood beside her, silent for a moment, reflecting on all that had occurred. "Humans are unlike any other species," he said. "They do not seek dominance for glory. They do not demand obedience. They simply exist, and in doing so, they awaken the universe. We have been given a gift, and it is our responsibility to honor it." Far away, in distant star systems, citizens, scholars, and leaders carried the lesson with them. Stories of the Resolute's calm precision spread, inspiring a new generation to prepare, to think strategically, and to value peace as both a goal and a responsibility. Across the galaxy, the quiet influence of a single Terran warship reshaped history in ways no one could have predicted. And yet, the humans did not linger. They had fulfilled their purpose. Captain Ilara gazed one last time at the Andari cluster, a small smile on her face. "We leave not to vanish, but to watch," she said, "to ensure that the lessons we have given continue to grow, and that the galaxy remembers its responsibility. Peace is a gift, but only if it is earned and protected." As the Resolute disappeared into the infinite expanse of space, the galaxy held its breath, forever aware that humans existed, not as conquerors, but as guardians of truth, strength, and resilience. The Andari cluster would never forget. Systems rebuilt their fleets with wisdom, councils debated with insight, and citizens trained with purpose. Every world knew the subtle truth. A single human ship had reminded the galaxy that vigilance, courage, and unity were as necessary as diplomacy, treaties, and hope. Peace was no longer an illusion. It was alive, protected by awareness and responsibility. And somewhere, in the vast emptiness between stars, the Resolute sailed onward, calm and unyielding, carrying the quiet certainty that humans had awakened, a galaxy, and that their lesson would echo across generations, shaping the future in ways no one could ever forget. The stars twinkled around them, witnesses to a galaxy reborn, a galaxy awakened, and a universe that now understood the unshakable truth. Peace without preparation is fragile, strength is respect, and humanity had arrived to remind the cosmos of both.